loy bai una fak
gai ma nyolo twen gai ma nyolo tolo
Yama kwego iruja du pupenje no ba kena dun lew Yama kwego kena dolar piemba elwen toy ke ben dolar adu Ekin bang tundunga dolar kidal Kuran kin dolar ya juwen kin makwego kwa kin dolar Yama kwego iruja du pupenje no ba kena dun lew Yama kwego kena dolar piemba elwen toy ke ben dolar Tundunga dolar kidal Kuran kin dolar Biya kiwen kin makwe Pakwa kin dolar Yama kwe loy Runja du puk penje no Ba kena dun lew Yano kwa kwa kena dolar Piemba Yalwen toy ke ben dolar Adu Dikin bang tundunga dolar kidal Kuran kin dolar Biya kiwen kin makwe Pakwa kin dolar Dikin bang tundunga dolar kidal Kurankin dolar biao juwen kin makwe Pakokin dolar Gagaikin bang tundung dolar kidal Kurankin dolar biao juwen kin makwe Pakokin dolar Gagai Jadana yom gula Yom kala yom bay Dom bay magala par Majong awan Kijaman Majik kemana tialam Nanu panda kumang utong Agur betong
Welcome to Lake State Media, everyone. Happy Friday. I think we are about to end of the month, so I would like to wish everybody happy new month ahead of time. For those of you who are watching in Facebook, YouTube, and listening in Clubhouse, I would like you guys to share this live show. So today we will be talking about the visit of President Salva Kiir in Nairobi, Kenya, a couple days ago. Meanwhile, Lake State Media, we have not been live soon, so we've been off of air because we've been so busy. But now we are back, so to discuss our issues concern about our country. So welcome everybody. My guest for this morning and this evening in Juba is my brother Ibn Yakani. Ibn Yakani is one of our person that always come in here and feed us, we South Sudanese, the information what's going on in our country. Before we go to discuss our topic today, I would like to give this chat to Ibn to introduce himself, and we will talk about, because there's a lot of breaking news going on in Juba nowadays. Ilmun, so welcome to Lake State Media. How everything's going in Juba, and also Tumaini peace talk. It seems like still continuing going on, and I have seen Salva Kiir visit. He met with those of Tumaini team. and then discuss. So give us an update. What happened? How is the meeting go with the President Salva Kiir, with the Tumaini group delegates, and what is next? What are we expecting? How things going? So welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. First, thanks to you for hosting me, and thanks to your team members, and for those who might have been following this show, wherever they are, in country, outside country. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever they are. So I'd like to say, yeah, I just came to Juba because there's a meeting coming up, a leadership meeting after the meeting of the president in Nairobi, and this is mainly to pursue the advocacy for Tumaini to succeed. And I'm speaking from my office as I talk with you right now in Juba. First, when the president went for the launching and endorsement of Raila Odinga as a Kenyan candidate for the chair position of African Union Commission, where right now the incumbent is Musa Faki from Chad, this round of the seat is coming to East Africa, and Raila Odinga stand from East African countries as a candidate and endorsed by all East African head of states. That means all East African community countries have stand behind Raila to be their candidate. Of course, he will challenge other candidates that may be coming from other regions that to contest. You know, it's a regional contest that each region file a candidate. So president went there. And of course, when we learned president is going to Nairobi for this endorsement, we did a quiet lobby around the leadership of the country that His Excellency President should meet with the delegates of the Tumaini peace talks, that mainly the members of the Artigono, of course, that is minus Ayo, and then the members of the opposition that are in Nairobi, that's mainly composed of Soma, Suna, and then NAS, RCC, and then with us stakeholders. The meetings went on well, very good meetings, in a closed door meetings been done, and then we have an overall meetings where all the delegates comes together. You have met each group together. I think one of the key message that emerged out of that meeting, and I'd like to share with the audience, is that the concerns raised by SPLM-IO, remember the 4 document that led to the withdrawal, was responded to. So improvement was done to the protocols of the Tumaini per the observations of the IO that have been incorporated. And our thanks goes and our appreciation goes to the opposition because they are able to compromise for us to consider the observations IO raised. What are these observations in particular? The observation is that the language of Tumaini should match with the language of our access, and that has been improved in terms of languages. For instance, I will give an example, one example. I don't go for all examples. One example that stand out very strong that I can share with the audience is that if you look at the National Leadership Council, under the Tumaini protocol, the National Leadership Council have a chair and have a deputy chair. And just was mentioned, like there will be a chair for National Leadership Council and there will be a deputy chair for National Leadership Council. But at least now it has been improved that the chair is been named His Excellency President Salva Kiir Mayardit, and the deputy has been named His Excellency First Vice President Dr. Riek Machar, because that is a format of our access. Our access have mentioned the president by name of Salva and the First Vice President by the name of Riek, and that is what has been improved in the Tumaini. But similar improvement were done to multiple protocols. So President was briefed that all the concerns IO raised were now considered and incorporated and accepted by all the delegates. It means opposition have accepted, the stakeholders have accepted. So it means now the justification for IO to be out of the table, it's been responded to. So it does not need again for IO to be on the table. That's one thing that have come out very clear. Second thing outstanding from us, civil society or stakeholders, we have raised the faith of the National Security Act, because we know that it's been interfered by President asking Minister of Justice to provide his legal opinion on the content of the bill after the outcome of the citizen president was not signed. And that means the clock counting for 30 days was not been running as smooth, it's been interfered with. But we saw the Speaker of the Parliament, the spokesperson of the National Parliament, pronounce it as a law. So we have been seeking clarity. Is it a law or not a law now? That's what we raised. This including participation of women, youth, were also raised in the Tumaini initiative, because the numbers of youth and women in terms of participation is very low. We have raised it. But also we have raised a serious deadlines that are approaching the government. 22nd September, per the national election law, the government is supposed to be dissolved. And that means is a question of political leadership legitimacy, or in simple, leadership legitimacy will affect the president or the government on the 22nd September. We say there's a need for Tumaini to end before 22nd September. Secondly, if we miss 22nd September deadline, we'll be facing a deadline of 22nd December, which will be constitutional crisis. So the country will enter into a constitutional crisis because by then we are supposed to have an elected government, and some provisional constitution are going to be crisis. So those are the messages that I have reached out, and the response of the president are as follows. One, Tumaini is an option that he supports and he works with it. So it means Tumaini will be the only option now that defines the new political transitional pathway for transition the situation from where we are to a situation where we can vote for credible, peaceful, and fair elections. Secondly, he called for an immediate leadership briefing. As I speak with you now, the government delegations have arrived to Juba to hold a leadership meeting. And the leadership meeting is the presidency. That means now the IO will attend the leadership meeting, and we hope that will be the meeting where IO will declare their return to Tumaini, because they okay, since already concerns of IO were responded to, there's a need for the government delegation to come to Juba to sensitize their colleagues who are here, those who have objections towards the protocol of Tumaini, so that Tumaini will roll out. And President say he wants Tumaini to end before 22nd September. So those are three main responses from the president. On the National Security Act, say he responded to it. So these are the interactions. So let's say it's a productive meeting. It's a meeting of exchange of ideas, but also it's a meeting where compromises were scarce, and it's a meeting where also consensus were reached, that there's a need for Tumaini to be the only options. The next thing that in front of them is really the question is extension of transitional period or extension of election. Of course, the two are in one. If you extend it to transitional period, then you go for elections. But this time we've been demanding, let the extension be different from what we have seen for the last 24 months. That is just political extension without any commitment, without any will, without any availability of resources. We say this time around, people have to go technically. So the extension, whether will be for 24 months or 18 months, have to be technically, because the date, the numbers that are reading, or the period, the duration reading is between either for 18 months or it is for 24 months. So whether 18 months or 24 months extension, where we need to end up with elections, but this time should be a bit different from the previous one in terms of availing political will, availing political commitment, and at the same time also availing resources. Those are some of the things that the meeting have discussed, and we have seen that already the spirit of extension is high among the parties. IO is in support of extension. Of course, this time around, IO is much more pushing for extension. IG is in support of extension. Then that means that the fate of election to be held in December 2024 is not longer imminent. It's been minimum. Why minimum? Because the preparation towards December, as we speak now, we are in September. So we roughly were left with 2 months to prepare for elections. Voter registration is not there. Voter education is not there. Electoral commissions, in terms of its institutional establishment, is not yet up to date, is below 60%. If you look at the presence of electoral commissions at the state level, look, even if we're to go for the option, some people are championing here, option of us going only for executive election, where we elect the president, then we elect state governors. Voter registration, and then voter verification, purchasing of electoral materials, resources for only executive election, even at hand, is not there. So these are the challenges that election is no longer imminent. The question is now, how do we move forward? And remember, as I repeat myself, there are leadership crisis from 22nd September and the constitutional crisis from 22nd December. That's the environment we're in. And of course, we are aware that there's events coming that President is going to attend, and President will present the Tumaini as the best option in those events. Which event? For example, African-China Summit. President is going to attend African-China Summit. So he will pronounce Tumaini there. He may be attending some events at AU level. He will pronounce Tumaini there. And already you have seen UN Security Council are in support of Tumaini. So the question comes is now, how can Tumaini take steps that are convincing, that are practical, that are functional, that are implementable, in comparison to the last 4 or 5 years way of doing things that we have seen is much more described by dragging of feet among the political parties, where they're unable even to deliver beyond 10% of the R access. So that's becoming the question for Tumaini. What is happening now in Tumaini? What's going on is that implementation matrix is done. Already positions are coming for final inputs for all the protocols and all the documents. that is going to be signed before 22nd September. And that means the country may witness that before 22nd September. And of course, our appreciation goes to opposition for their compromises. When we're incorporating the inputs of the IO, there were no resistance from opposition because they value that the nation needs peace and stability in the face of this economical crisis, in the face of these floods. And of course, I can't really, Abraham, keep quiet. I would like to bring it as a point of interjection here that, please, colleagues in the diaspora, our people are dying in the face of the floods. Can we establish a flood support? We don't need cash money. Those who can give cash money can give cash money. Those who want to give items, please, we will try to see how to facilitate second-hand clothes, whatever we can help our communities that are dying, especially in the region of Upper Nile and the region of Barghazal, with some pockets in the region of Equatoria, mainly Central Equatoria and Lafon in Eastern Equatoria. Our people are dying of snakes bites. So all these patterns have contributed for the opposition to compromise that there's no way we can't subject our citizens to suffer because of our political grievances. So this is my update to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Inmuni. Absolutely, we need to raise awareness about the flooding. Our people are suffering across the country. I have seen the picture and the video. People are living in swamp, in the water. So exactly. The babies, the mothers, the old elderly, they are living in the swamp, in the water. It's really painful. When I see the video and the picture the other day, it was breaking my heart. This is a calling for all South Sudanese diaspora. Please, we need to come together. Anything that you can give so we can save life in South Sudan is very important. Inmun and I will be working to create something to raise money so that we can have these people, how the money can be raised. We can talk and then do the live show and then do a fundraising on live, and then we can put something out where you can send the money to do. That's very important. And also too, I'm calling out to the government leaders. They have to do something to save life. So humanitarian is very important, not just only the citizens, that's the money in the country, where are the money are going? This is the time the government have to come up and save life. People who are suffering from the flood, people who are suffering from hunger, all of these, the government is a work for government to come up and give the money to save the people who are suffering from the flooding area. And also the United Nations can help too. So all of these, and with the citizen, we have to help too. So that's a wonderful, it's a really, we need to raise awareness for that. Ilmun, when you, so we are talking about Tumaini. So what about Soma 1, which right now is, they are in Rome. So the one, those of Emmanuel Jawin and Tommy Shrilo and Alex. So those are the Soma 1. And they refused to go to Nairobi to join the Tumaini. But now I heard that a couple of weeks ago, they meet with the government delegate in Rome. So the president right now is supporting Tumaini. And what about those groups in Rome? Are they they don't want to join Tumaini? How will they be a part of this peace negotiation?
Of course, discussions is going on, and we appreciate St. Gideon community in really standing up and facilitating discussion between Soma led by General Thomas Cirillo. One thing that has happened recently is that at least now they have established a formal structure of Soma, and they have come out public. And in their press statement, where they have declared their structure as Thomas Cirillo as their chair, General Thomas Cirillo as their chair, and then he's deputized by Alex Yatta. Then their secretary is Emmanuel Ajawin. At least now there's a structure that is formal that can be engaged with. So they have declared that, which is, for me, is a good outcome that now we have an entity to deal with, and by then dealing with no structure. So they have a structure. That's a good one. And if you look at the press release, they say they stand for dialogue as the best option for resolving political crisis. They have not said we stand for violence. They stand for dialogue, which is very good that they have embraced the culture of dialogue that they will continue. But also they have put their negotiating points or their positions very clear, which but then people are in dilemma. What exactly is their positions? They put their positions very clear there. That one, they want to see a national they have a concerns about how agreements have been implemented, which for me is as equal as when we came first in day one under Tumaini. Remember the summer under General Thomas Pagana Moom, when they came first, is what the raise is that constitution must be drafted in Nairobi. But through negotiation, positions have changed. We are now discussing about really having a protocol, and the position of drafting such a constitution in Nairobi and flying it to Juba is no longer an option because that's negotiation. So at least Soma under General Thomas Rilo have come with an agenda that we can define clearly that opens a room for negotiation. Normally, don't negotiate with somebody who have no position. So having somebody with a structure, with a clear position, that opens a window for negotiation. So my message is that option of they opening negotiation to build up on this particular Tumaini process, it is very high. People should not be doing things in a hurry, but at least signal that they are ready for genuine and concrete dialogue, but their perception is on the table. So it depends on now how do we proceed. And that's why in the meeting with the president, we say it's better to go comprehensively than going selectively. This culture of building peace in pieces will not help us. We better build peace in comprehensive manner. So that's why this was a message conveyed to the president, and he acknowledged. So yes, honestly, everybody has to be on the table, but of course, you have to bargain positions. Like what I've said in the beginning, when we're in Nairobi beginning Tumaini, the beginning was rough, but now we're almost getting to a softer ground. So it will be the same thing with Soma and diplomacy. The beginning will be rough, but as long people can sit on the table and talk to each other is better, which they have embraced. They have never called for war in their statement. Mainly, they have called for dialogue to continue, which is a good thing, by the way. Because in the past, people are afraid that maybe they may call for war as an option. But they've said, no, war is not an option. So they are still having a high opportunity of continuing mediation with the government. And of course, in the process of bringing this, then what you will do is that you'll continue with them. But the likelihood of they being in Nairobi before responding to 22nd September is a bit low. So what does this mean? It means the incumbent government need to reach a deal with Soma in Nairobi under Tumaini to really find a solution to the leadership legitimacy, which is approaching on 22nd September, or a decision have to be made to cancel the political legitimacy determination by 22nd September, which is in front of us. And there's two options that the government can take over that. Either they reach a deal in Tumaini, sign it, and that they'll restructure the government with incorporation of the opposition from Nairobi, or they create inter-party dialogue of the signatories to our access, since the electoral law that is demanding termination of legitimacy by 22nd September is under their hand. Then they can say, as a party signatory to our access, based on Article 8.4, the trigger, they are calling for postponement of the elections from December 2024 to a certain given period of time. That automatically beats also the question of leadership legitimacy. It means we'll have a new calendar for new elections to come up, and it means the political legitimacy is already extended, and that will be based on it. Those are the two options they have at hand that they can deliberate. But of course, without Tumaini, that particular option of triggering Article 8 and above will find a lot of resistance from regional and international partners, because you have done that before and you have not delivered. How different it is. And that's why Tumaini stand out as the only option that the parties have to stand for, and it have to make it successful. And if the continued dialogue between Soma 1 under General Thomas Cirillo can speed up between now before 22nd and can get them to a consensus position and to bring delegates. Because one thing we're advocating that if the leaders of Soma 1 see that their security has been compromised in Nairobi, they can send delegates. They can send the representatives.
September or October?
Yeah, of September, 22nd September. So 22nd September, they can send the delegates to join the process in Nairobi. Because one of the political experience people have, you might have realized with late Dr. John Garang, he have never rejected any call for peace. And it took us almost 21 or 18 years to get the comprehensive peace agreement, by the way. We start right from Kokodam since 80s. And we come end up having a comprehensive agreement in 2005. Almost 18 or 20 years search for peace. So it still will continue for that. The only thing is that if the leadership of someone feel the security has been compromised, they can send delegates. But they still also, they retain the right to withdraw. If they feel it's not suiting their interest, they retain the right to withdraw their delegates from the process in Kenya, and their delegates will be withdrawn safely. So for me, it's a culture of dialogue that they need to come to the table to sell their agenda than isolating themselves. We don't see the case study of Darfur happening in South Sudan, where some people keep on saying no, whatever you say, no. And later on, they have been defined as irrelevant players. We don't want that to happen because political leaders, some of them, even if they're not in the incumbent government, they hold a very genuine ideas, strategies that will help the country if they are in the system. So having a table of talking, that will help the country and make the country have a pathway. So for me, that is my explanation. That is still options are open on the hand, options of continuous dialogues continuing, and some under General Thomas Sirilo have called for dialogue as the best option, not war. So that for me offers opportunity. That is an entry point. And they having a structure is an entry point. The ball is now in the hands of the government, whether they want to end Tumaini first and reach concept by Tumaini, structure Tumaini, then see Soma, the other Soma. And that become a search for peace in pieces. But if I decide for comprehensive, there's a need to have the team of Rome under General Thomas Sirilo, Soma, to join Nairobi so that we have a comprehensive deal that we can go with it, even including someone like Simon Garwich. Because what we know is that Garwich mobility is a big challenge where he is. He couldn't easily access Nairobi because of where he is physically. But if they have some chance, also wish that somebody like him should be on the table. So comprehensive approach is the best. But of course, this requires political compromises from all sides, being it the government, being opposition someone, or being opposition under the Tumaini in Nairobi. So they, as a political actors, need to take a responsibility of compromises for the best interest of the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Edmund. You know, I was listening in to Emmanuel Jawin the other day in Clubhouse, and the way he's speaking, it sounds like Soma in Rome, led by Thomas Shirilo. They are not. They seem like they are not interested in joining Tumaini, and also what I'm hearing from them, they're still demanding a round table, which is. I don't know how that will designate it with the current peace talk in Nairobi and how the government will respond. And also, my next question regarding about this, before I play the video and asking you on the next question, is, okay, if Tumaini sign a peace agreement with the government, and then General Paul Malong, General Pagana Moom, and the others, General Stephen Boy, and the rest who are now having a peace talk with the government, like other group, if they go to Juba, so and then Soma in Rome, they remain behind. So is it the door will be shut? Will government will shut the door behind Soma of Thomas Shirilo if they are not agreed to join Tumaini in Nairobi? Will the government shut the door behind them?
My personal opinion is that the door for the search for peace shouldn't be shut. And this is what we told the president in the Nairobi briefing. That if the venue, because there's a fact that people does not check. Let me tell you, the group that split from Soma. First, Nairobi, whether is insecurity or not insecurity, for the group of Soma 1, which is led by General Thomas Sirilo, they feel they're being betrayed by their colleagues who established Soma under Tumaini. So politically, let's not beat around the bush. The reality is that the group of Soma in Nairobi cannot sit eye to eye in same table with the Soma in Rome, or the group of Soma under Paganamum Malong cannot sit together with the Soma under Thomas Sirilo and Emmanuel Ajawin and Alex Yatta. They cannot sit because they have grievances. That's the reality. So whether use insecurity as a cover or use venue as a cover, that's the reality that they'll never sit. So if that is the problem, should that be a problem of delaying South Sudan to experience violence? No. Have they told us that they will continue violence? No. So Soma under Thomas Sirilo say, we are not convinced with the venue of Nairobi and approach. Okay, what do we do? As long as they say dialogue will continue, don't shut the door of the dialogue. The dialogue will continue. And some are under Paganamum, if they can reach under Tumaini a deal, they reach a deal, but the president should continue constituting a team that will continue a peace talks with the with the summer in Rome, because that's what I call as search for peace in pieces, because that is a class of political elites that believe their grouping must be considered special. So when you have a political grouping of a special attitudes, that automatically impose for you search for peace in pieces. You can't search for comprehensive. For instance, let me give you an example. What is the tension between Tumaini and our access? Is when in Tumaini some people are saying our access is dead. People in our access say no. If our access is dead, then who created this Tumaini? Wasn't our access? Why do you say it's dead? So there's a question of perception and attitudes. And politics that have a weaker perception and attitudes normally end to become a dragging of feet. And this is the situation we're facing now. So I don't think that when the government is formed, the government is going to shut down the door of dialogue with Soma under General Thomas Cirillo, and then deputized by Alex, and then the secretary is Emmanuel Ajawin. I think they will be waiting. They'll be waiting to see Soma coming in, then they go. Then they call for national conference. It depends on the level of influence. Of to what level can they influence? And remember, as I'm repeating myself, there was a call for drafting of constitution outside the country.
Right. Okay.
We have left it out. So it's a question of dialogue. It's a question of sitting on the table. Once sitting on the table, you start arguing, perceptions and attitudes can change. There's nothing completely consistent. And remember, when we left Juba to join the Tumaini, the incumbent is thinking about only integrating Malong and then Tagana Moom and then Stephen Boy. It ended up not an integration. It ended up a proper negotiation, evaluation of the political table. So positions in the beginning of negotiations can be rigid. But as negotiations go, positions can shift, goalposts can shift, and people can end up somewhere. The only thing is that we should say no to violence. We should say yes for dialogue to continue. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. My next question will come after this video clip.
Salva Kiir Mayardit has made a heartfelt appeal to the opposition group currently engaged in the negotiation with the government at the Tumaini Peace Initiative in Nairobi, urging them to prioritize peace above anything else. The President of the Republic message came during a pivotal meeting with the both government and opposition delegation in Nairobi on Wednesday. Speaking to South Sudan Broadcasting Corporation, Minister of Information Michael Makuei expressed that the President of the Republic acknowledged and appreciated the positive stride made thus far in the negotiation, demonstrating a shared commitment from the government side.
The government delegation briefed him on the progress that we have made. All the observations we were made in Juba, we have incorporated them in the current protocols, and the protocols are at present in their final form. His Excellency, the President, has appreciated our efforts. And we also requested him that we should go to Juba so that we go and make the same presentation to our brothers and sisters who are there in Juba, so that we come up with the final protocols that will be ready for signature. So we appreciate His Excellency the President. He was really appreciative of our efforts. And we promise, as we promised the people of South Sudan, we will bring peace to South Sudan.
Minister Makuei added that the concerns raised by the opposition groups were carefully considered, reflecting a spirit of inclusivity and dialogue that is crucial in achieving a sustainable peace agreement.
All these reservations we came with us from Juba, we addressed them thoroughly together with all the stakeholders and all the opposition groups, and they are all unanimous on the current provisions that we have. So we are sure that we have addressed all the concerns, and there will be no way for us to talk again of any other observations. However, we are going to Juba, and if any further observations come up, then we will consider them.
A representative of the opposition groups, Roald Dahl, commended the president for the steadfastness in search for lasting peace in South Sudan, saying they are for peace and that they are looking forward to finalizing the agreement sooner than later.
Visit by His Excellency the President, and we were very happy to see him very encouraged and committed for peace and reconciliation among the people of South Sudan. His Excellency, as we share with him as a position, we are very committed to make sure that there is peace in our country. And clearly I can tell the people of South Sudan that Tumaini initiative have reached a serious milestone. We have concluded all the protocols except one protocol, and from now I think we are ready to initiate all these protocols, and hopefully within very short time we will sign a comprehensive agreement that will address the issue of constitution, issue of elections, issue of security, issue of reconciliation and peace among the people of South Sudan.
President Salva Kiir Mayardit underscored the crucial importance of placing the interests of the people first in order to foster lasting peace and move the country forward toward stability and prosperity.
As a complementary deal to the revitalized agreement for the resolution of the conflict in South Sudan 2018, Tumaini initiative is expected to take the country to exercise its first general election. By the end of there will be agreed transitional period by the parties. Francis Oliver, SSBC.
Okay, so Edmund, yeah, you hear that that report. So do all the delegates of Tumaini, everybody's in that meeting when the president was there, and what the reaction of the president?
Of course, in the meeting, this meeting that was broadcast was a meeting of a selected number. It's not everybody. It was a selected number. So each group was selected a specific number to meet with the president. And for us, as stakeholders, we selected the elderly among us. That is Bishop Enoch Tombe, Sheikh Jaran Nebi, Pauline Riak, and then Dr. Guy. We say, go and represent us. And our position was read by Dr. Pauline, because these are the most elderly among us to represent as stakeholders. Some of us we throw back. That's one thing that happened. And the reaction of the president was positive. As you can hear from what Lual said, you can hear from what McQuay was saying, is that the discussion was thoroughly, and the discussion went on very productively. And the president responded positively that, okay, let's go back to Juba. As I speak now, the government delegation have arrived already Juba. So either today or tomorrow or Monday, they will brief their other colleagues in the cabinet and from the political parties over the observations. And you also have heard from McQuay that all the reservations that were raised in Juba, and specifically also reservations from all the parties, plus the reservation from the IO, were all incorporated and considered thoroughly, and President was informed of all those concerns that were raised, recommendations that were raised. So they were incorporated into Tumaini in Nairobi. So that means the team which arrived today have come out with the new protocols, that these particular protocols is intended to show the observations that were being made by various parties, by various leaders in Juba, and then by various players, that including the IO opposition. They're all considered in the Tumaini. So that's the final versions. One protocol that Dr. Lual was saying, all protocols are prepared, including implementation matrix. They are all ready to be initial. They are waiting for the return of the SPLM-IO to the table. And of course, they're also brought to IO to see it. So this time around, we don't initial things that at the end of the day, somebody will reject. So the IO will be exposed to all those protocols. One protocol is talking about is a protocol of inclusive governance and responsibility sharing. That means the protocol around redistribution receipts of the government between opposition in Nairobi and the government. It is what is been left. And this is what is going to be discussed also among the delegation of the government of, okay, if we are to go for responsibility sharing, which particular position shall be looking into? So that is the last protocol. That is what initial. And that gives you a hope that Tumaini, before 22nd September, will produce a results that Lual described it as a comprehensively. But of course, this is still means alongside the team in Rome is not on board. But of course, peace in pieces, Rome will be reached out.
Thank you. Yes. So yeah, definitely. Actually, on Sunday, this Sunday, on the 2nd, we will. I will interview Lual Dao. He will be live here in the state media. So stay out. It will be. I already put out an announcement. So I will interview this coming Sunday. So at 10 a.m., which is 5 p.m. local time. So okay, let's move to election. You talk a little bit about election. That election will be postponed to 18 to 24 months. Okay. So and you have seen that if the election will be postponed for 24 months, for instance, so will be the peaceful in the country? Because that I have seen one of the, I'm quoting one of the Nyanya 1 veteran. He was calling for election to take place. So, and the rest of citizens are calling. So that's a question coming out from it's asking Humanitarian. So are you still supporting an election while the 2018 and agreement are not yet parliamentary here right now? So has those agreements, there are some of the agreement, like the main agreement that people are concerned about, security arrangement. So security arrangement, joint forces, because right now the country, by President Dr. Yamachar, he is commander-in-chief of SPLIO forces and the others opposition. So when will the security arrangement will be complete? Because this is the very big issues here. Because the country need to have one united, unified forces. So when these people are gonna reach the agreement to unify their forces, so that the South Sudan can have one united military forces.
Of course, my answer is that I support elections. But remember, let me give you a proper analysis. And then the political philosophy behind Tumaini in relation to elections. So I'd like to bring that. First, when we're calling for the government to meet the deadline of election of 22nd September, we started this call since September last year. And I've been calling that political leaders need to make a decision. On what? They need to make a decision on critical political questions that are contributing to the creation of a good enough condition for the conduct of the elections to meet the standard of being peaceful and non-violent. What are these conditions? One, unification of forces. We started since last year that unification of forces is very important. That we need to make sure forces are unified. And once forces are unified, then you can have one single army. And by then the JDB, which is in charge of the unification of forces, were only demanding for 6 months. Since September 2023, if you come up to March 2024, you would have done with the unification of forces. That's why by then we strongly push for elections. Besides that, if we start the season around whether we go for elections with the newly constituencies or the old constituencies, if you make that decision, by now, voter education, civic education could have been rolled out. In September last year, if you keep on calling, okay, if you keep on calling on elections to be held, then you need to put resources. If we have resources in September 2023, until this time, we would have done with it. These decisions were delayed for almost 1 year. Okay, since September 2023, now we are in September 2024. People are making decisions that we have been calling 1 year back. That's why 1 year back we're strongly pushing for election to be held. So those decisions have been delayed all along until now. Why are they delayed? They're delayed because of deficit in trust and confidence. Among who? Among the principal leaders of this country. They couldn't put resources. They couldn't meet. It's until now when they're confronted with the questions of legitimacy, constitutional crisis, now they're speedily meeting. Since day one of the steps of the government, the presidency only met once. But now when there's a crisis, they're actually meeting even twice in a month, which they would have done previously. So those are some of the things, technicalities. Resources at hand. For example, right now as we speak, National Election Commission have called for 2 deadlines. They failed because they don't have money. They have called for voter registration to roll out in June. They have no money. That deadline passed. Again, they went again further calling the voter registration will be rolled out in the month of July. July is now finished. Why? They don't have money. They don't have cash at hand. So these have created an environment that election can be conducted. Now, where is the trigger or where is the virus that made election to be clear? Is the chairperson of National Election Commission, Professor Abdenigo, when he went and declared elections will be held on 22nd September, and he declared with the spirit of implementing the law. Now, in the spirit of implementing the law, he declared elections will be held on 22nd December. And when declared elections will be held in 22nd December, there's supposed to be at least enough conditions or good enough conditions. One of them is unification of forces, 2, constitution, 3 decisions have been made whether we go using new population census or old population census. 3, we would have answered if there's any electoral dispute, how do we go? Because the current constitution have not yet so much supported the judiciary reforms. All those are factors besides the floods that we have now, besides the communal violence. If those decisions would have been made, we would have gone to a better position. But now here we are caught up. 22nd September, with the application of the law that has made election declared in 22nd December, the same law requires 22nd September government to be dissolved at all levels. Have you seen here? So government is going to be dissolved at all levels. So now, these provided a big challenge. And that's why Tumaini became a best suitable option that need to be used in order to gain attention. The question is, if you are extending the elections, what is it for? Are you extending elections with regaining the progress you have scored? Or do you postpone elections, then you go for violence? The problem is that the public messaging towards the fate of the election is being taken too much political, not technical. But I will tell you, public opinion was saying elections is the option. And that's why even if you're doing extension, if the extension is not election focused, that extension will get huge citizen resistance. But if the extension is election focused, then you will diffuse public resistance. So, and this is the philosophy of Tumaini. The philosophy of Tumaini is that we must put all political actions gearing towards the conduct of elections. For instance, like what? Unification of forces, constitution, population census should run concurrently. And that answers the questions people ask about the budgets. So the budget will become focused more, election-focused budget. Because remember, election, it have its own budget. The budget of election up to now has not been approved. It was taken to Council of Ministers. When the technical committees 1 week ago were asked to provide their position on the elections, they were being pushed the political leadership. Why are you asking us technocrats to swallow the responsibility of postponing election? It is you. You must make a political decision. So politicians are going to make decisions. And I'm quite sure the coming of the government leaders to Juba is going to focus on elections. So the question comes is, are you postponing the elections with a manner that you are retaining the gains, or you're postponing the election to trigger violence? That's the discussion we need to discuss. Should you postpone elections by going for violence, or do you postpone elections and then we retain the violence? So everything has to be election focused. If the extension is election focused, and it means by election focused, you suspend all spending of the budget lines on different things. You spend on unification of forces, which the JDP have already declared that they need 33 million US dollars to finish as unification. So if they say if they're given 33 million US dollars to the account unification, they will run it in less than 6 months, is done. That's what the JDP was saying in the recent meeting. National Election Commission is demanding around 250 million in order for them to create a conducive environment for elections. I think population census around million plus, 40 million or 60 or 70 million plus for them to conduct census. Constitutional Review Commission is thinking about 40 something, around 50 million. So if this money were availed, then that means the country is gearing towards elections, because these are the institutions that create a conducive environment for elections. Besides, you have the police in the Ministry of Interior have established election security committee that also require 20 or 30 million US dollars for them to prepare protection and safety of the electoral ballots, citizen safety, and then also the safety of the process of the elections in terms of being free, fair, non-violent, and peaceful. So if those resources were availed, then elections can be conducted. And if you want to manage public opinion or public expectations, then you need to change the approach. The approach has to be that whatever you're doing right now is gearing towards the conduct of elections. There you can manage expectations of the citizens. But also economical pressure is making people saying, whether with gun or without gun, bring the ballot boxes. We need to vote. Because the message is going out there that the big size of the government is consuming too much money. Well, actually, the big size of the government have gone for 9 months or 10 months without salaries. So those are the facts that need to be provided into the public opinion. Of course, there are huge attempts, which I call them, they are not really genuine attempts. attempts that let's go for executive elections only. Let's vote the president. When will the president campaign all over the country? There's some strongholds that even the president cannot go and campaign in it. When will the governors campaign? When are you going to register voters? When are you going to educate voters? How are they registering? How will they verify? Their voice which are shouting for executive elections. You cannot conduct election in less than preparation of 1 year. If you want to go for election, preparation at least need 1 year. And that 1 year preparation, it means resources are available in the accounts of the relevant public institution tasked for creating a conducive environment for elections. We are only left with 2 months. Besides this, we have other natural factors. September is going to witness huge flooding in the country. How are you going to go for that? Where is the money that you can balance between responding to floods, preparing for election, and creating conducive environment in the face of the floods for success of elections? With the poor infrastructure we have, these are all facts that you can't avoid them. So the reality is elections are going to be postponed. And this postponement of election, I mean, is a defeat for the opinion of those who support election. Is that reality is that political leadership have delayed. And this delay will be so much fall under the responsibility of the president. You have delays in commanding leadership, in exercising leadership for decision making. He's caught up now, is it? You know, and these have danced to the tune of the SPLMIO. That look here, we've been saying. Yeah.
You know, Imon, before I let you continue with about this election thing, you know, if the election will postpone to 24 months, you know, what would be a shame, SPLM, IG, people of South Sudan, the citizens will lose interest of SPLM. You can imagine for the last couple of years, they were campaigning. Last year, they were campaigning that of the election. Yes, endorsement in Barkaza, endorsement in Electoral, now remain in Afana. So they spend million of dollars for rally, all of this. We are going for election. But at the end, they will agree that the election will be postponed. What will be the feeling of the citizen?
Of the people.
Yeah, of the people. How that is so embarrassing and simple. So if SPLM give in to the SPLIO that, okay, we are going for extension for 24 months, that the citizen, one citizen take the law in their own hand and say that enough is enough, the SPLM or all the political leaders, they will not blame the citizen because they failed them. They keep failing and failing and failing. Okay?
You know, the challenge is those who, when we are pushing since September last year, I remember in several shows with you, I've been pushing for political decisions. And I remember people say, why is it political decision by the leadership? This reality is that the leadership of the country is supposed to make a decision last year, September. Our calculation is that last year, September to this year, September, you could have accomplished a lot of tasks. Because this is my formula. 22nd September 2023, you're supposed to start rolling out voter education. Okay? You come with it until December 2023. Voter education is done. Political parties registration is done. Unification of forces is done. Decision on use of population census or delimitation of the constituency is done. Come January 2024, you move January 2024, this is a dry season. Until May 2024, you could have done with civic education, voter registration, voter verification, demarcation of constituencies. People are prepared. Comes from May, moving on until today, we could have been now in a serious party campaigns. Candidates are campaigning, parties are campaigning, voters now know where they're going to vote, where is the polling station by today. Comes October, people are in mood of already know who am I going to vote for, and some people have calculated themselves, election could have gone. And then as a ruling party, they could have done this in line with their campaign of the endorsement. Because Electoral Commission is under the selection of IG. And besides this, if you know, there's a two ends, my brother Abraham, that you take into account, and then specifically for audience who are listening here. One particular critical challenge with our access is that our access have conditioned the current constitution cannot commission election. So the only thing with our access, if you want to use the current constitution for election, you need to amend and introduce an article for elections, because the belief of our act is that there's supposed to be a permanent constitution that commissions election. Right now, judiciary reform for handling judiciary disputes that are related to elections are not yet in position. Registration of political parties that are signatories to our access is linked with Chapter 2. Have you seen here? So you need to confirm that IO doesn't have military. All other parties in SOA, like for example, Denai Jok, who is a former governor of Jongole, relinquished his army. For instance, people like Lamakol relinquished his military wing. Sang Chang relinquished his military wing. Okay, and then Vice President Abdul Baghi relinquished his military wing. If all those ones are confirmed by JTB that now there's no political party that owns a military wing, what could have happened now? They could have go and register under the Political Parties Act as a parties. So all signatories of our access right now have not won the identity of a political party to contest in the elections. The 27 parties that have registered are non-signatory to our access. The 27 have no power to say, let's go for election of the current constitution, which need the parties of our access to trigger Article 8.4 to amend the constitution. Now, there are people in the SPLM who have been using the campaign of the election as a nya project, as a feeding project, as a looting project, as a project of eating money. But also His Excellency President allowed them to play like that as a chair, as a president. We have told them, you guys, we cannot do this without knowing the reality. So the truth is that now they have been campaigning, they have been eating money, as you said, and even I had the Upper Nile money got lost, around $3 million US for the endorsement. That got lost. And here, we need only less than maybe 1 million or 2 million to rescue lives in the face of the floods. So you chop 3 million in the number of endorsement, and you have people who are dying here that need only even less than that 3 million to be safe. Where is the reality? And this is a frustration people have. This is a challenge people have with our political classes. You see? So everything is centered towards political attitudes and political perception. And unfortunately, some people have blocked the president from knowing the reality. They provide lies. Actually, my worry, if we passed the leadership legitimacy of 22nd September, which is 21 days from when, today is the 30th, 22 days from today. If we pass that deadline, we secure it through Tumaini, still the ruling party is going to have its internal crisis between its old, like what Garang Mobil say. Yeah. You can hear, look at the way he banged on the table. And look at the call he made there. He called on Paul Manyang, he called on Daniel Awe, we must meet. And if a ignored call of meeting, and
you call them like SPLM, they are a cocktail.
Cocktail that Jibo Kotoina. So they have been mixed cocktail, you bring the green, the red, and they all be put all together. So now, that call, if you ignore it, that is a call of Garang Mobil, you are mistaken. That call is going to gain momentum, and you see the way how it trade in the social media. Look at the hate speech of the rat,
right?
How it trades. Look at the frustration. So now people are watching at how things are going to happen.
And another thing too, we one of our Lex media journalists, he interviewed one of the musician. His name Diganyai.
Yes.
A couple of days ago. And he lined one of the new songs, phrase Bolomil and President Salva Kiir. Guess what? If you can go to that video and read the comment, the citizens are complaining and call out Dinganyai, then you can see how hungry the citizens are toward their leaders. That's how they are. They are very persuaded, very hungry because the country is not moving. Their leaders are looting the resources. People are dying from hunger, disease, flooding. Everything is going on. People are fed up. Enough is enough.
And besides that, if you see the incident of frustrated soldiers shooting at the frustrated citizens, by the way, they're not shooting for a rat. They're shooting frustrated soldiers shooting at frustrated incidents. Look at the incident recently in Yampu town, where SSPDF have to confront armed civilians.
Yes.
And look at the way the small incident only, how the market was looted. So the economy is on time bomb that if any soldier go to market and shoot bullets on air, everybody will not consider the bullets, but people are looking at where are the shops. Before the doors are closed, let me loot. So that's the level of frustration we're in. And that's why we're saying political decision is required. And everything rests on the decision of the president as a leader. He either proves he is a right leader or he proves that he's a failed leader. And this also goes back to the party. The people of the party around him, why should they let him down by lying to him? In South Sudan, there's no hidden news. We are aware of politicians that right now are shifting out their children out of Juba, their families, because they know what are the consequences going to happen. But why do they subject the life of the massive innocent citizens for this situation? If you see those who are well off, their children are no longer in the schools, in the public schools in Juba, they have all been migrated to the neighboring countries because they smell something bad is coming. And if we start seeing elders like Garang Mobile is now banking in a funeral place, attacking the church, attacking politicians, and telling them who is the best fighter. Why do we need certificates? If we see the level of frustration, and it's not only there, go to the churches. Every Sunday, all the churches are full of frustration. A slight thing, you issue political statement in a market, the way you will get the blows from the citizens, because they don't carry AK-47. So the level of frustration, actually for me, we are waiting for that courage. Who is there to come out and say election is postponed?
No, they are using Tumaini. They are using the economy meltdown the country as the reason why they would extend the election. That's what they are. That's what they are using.
And that's why I'm telling you,
pushing the Tumaini so that they said, "Oh, we are extend the election to another 24 months because of Tumaini." What is? We cannot buy that as citizen. We cannot buy that. That's a BS. That's a BS.
That is a center. That is a center of the frustration. That is where also the center of standing up genuinely and valuing the options, because the options are now all full of anger, full of stress, full of frustrations. So for me, that is the beginning. That's the beginning of the threat towards national security and peace and stability. So it's a moment that we should take a national stand ground, but also if they're using Tumaini, they need to show the citizen how different it's going to be. And that's why the implementation matrix of Tumaini will not be as equal as the roadmap. So it's going to be a very tense position, a very hard position, and legitimacy is under question. Potential crisis occurrence is under question, but we require leaders that will take a bold decision and a bold stance. Still, they have the options if they're really serious in showing the country that we are this time different and things are going to be different. And one of the indicators is really availability of money. This game of political will, political commitment, if there's no resources, even if the will is there, the commitment is there. This will and commitment without resources does not make any sense.
Well, that's a very good question, Jerapina.
Exactly.
That's a very good question. That is $1 million question.
If there's no election now, if election become a problem, what do we do? What do we take next? And by the way, this particular question answers the position of SPLM Soma by saying, let's go for conference now. Let's go and let's hear the citizens. You see the way how you make a mistake that supports something that you deny. And you see this question, okay, if there's no elections, what? There's two options here. You either go for a technocratic government, paralyze the current government so that you get the citizens, or you bring elections that the determinations between going for violence and crisis or elections will go for fearful position. And that's why somehow we need to take responsibility right now, because options of election becoming an option of friction, options of tension, options for potential clashes. That is going to come up. And that's why the leadership of the country need to open a window for a better approach. So this question is actually the topic. This is a political subject of the country right now. It's not Tumaini. It's what the citizens were expecting. All this time citizens tolerated the last 5 years because of this question. But now they told that there's no answer for your question, as our sisters have raised. That is it.
Okay, let me take another question from Clubhouse. McKenny, are you there?
Yes.
Oh, okay, McKenny, if you are there, sure you can ask your question now.
Yes,
Yes. How are you?
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Can you hear him good, Edmund?
Yes, I hear it very clear.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Edmund, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine.
To what extent do you think this process is a boomerang previous peace which was negotiated in Khartoum? Is it fair to say that Tumaini all about responsibility sharing? What do you think?
Okay, did you get his question?
Can you repeat? Can you repeat?
Can you repeat it again, Makani?
I was trying to ask you, I said, to what extent Tumaini is a boomerang previous peace which was negotiated in Khartoum 2018. Is it fair to say that Tumaini is more about responsibility sharing, draw attentions of activists, other parties to engage in Nairobi without addressing the root causes of the problems in the country? What do you think?
Yeah. Okay. Good. I hear you. Now let me answer him. Plus the question on the screen, I think they are almost close to they're related. The question, his question, the question on the screen from Garang Mao are related to his question. Yeah. So this is my answer. The philosophy of Tumaini, and I'm responding from an informed background, is focusing on 4 key milestones. Milestone 1, unified first. Milestone 2, constitution, whether they call it permanent or whatever. Milestone 3, population census. Milestone 4, judiciary reform. And the judicial reform is tied together with transitional justice. Now, Tumaini is saying these 4 milestones should move concurrently, and they end by creating a conducive environment for conduct of free, fair, and credible election. That's the approach of Tumaini. That's the philosophy under Tumaini. And that's why there's so many people who are creating rumors that Tumaini is a replacement of R-Access. Tumaini is not a replacement of R-Access. Tumaini is trying to improve the observation of the gaps that were seen in R-Access and the new ideas coming from the Declaration of Rome. Responsibility sharing is not so big here under the Tumaini compared to the Khartoum Peace Agreement. Okay? So Tumaini have not expanded the size of the government. But of course, in terms of responsibility sharing, my brother, the consequence of Tumaini that may sound as a negative consequence that some people in the current sized government of the national unity have to go out in all levels. And some people from Tumaini have to come and sit and secure political influence on implementation of the milestones of the Tumaini. That is, and this particular interpretation is not being sold so much. It's not being breached so much because Tumaini is taken up by confrontation of individuals' experiences. That's what I'm saying. Some people in Juba look at Tumaini return of Malong. Some people in Juba look at Tumaini return of Pagana Moom. Some people in Juba look at Tumaini return of Stephen Boy. Some people look at Tumaini I'm going to be kicked out of power. But they don't look at that interpretation. But the philosophy behind it is that these 4 milestones, unification of forces, constitution, population census, judicial reform should go concurrently. And along this, you have the elements of transitional justice, returns of IDPs, land dispute to be mitigated in terms of demarcation of constituency, and end up at a point of where they come to meeting point of where elections have to be conducted. The question is there political will and commitment this time better than the last 5 years that we have been seeing? Because almost it's the same call for the last 5 years that were not being delivered. So that is a difference. That's a difference that is coming in. So Tumaini have never neglected responding. And one of the things that if you see all the arguments, people are saying most of our issues are constitutional related issues. That's why the constitution making process was been given a huge attention under Tumaini, because if you can open a genuine and restrictive constitution making process, most of the root causes of the political crisis in the country will be answered, whether being the power of the president or to what limit system of governance. When you say it's a federal democratic, what does that mean in application? In terms of physical practices of the government, in terms of people's rights. For example, what they say, rights in terms of land ownership, all these things, access to land, all these questions, land grabbing, land disputes, all issues related to cattle wrestling that is being now entertaining a lot of arms, communal violence, like what's going in Lunjang or what's happening in other parts of the country, all those crises, what's happening in Nasser, what's happening recently in Baliet. So all those crises, if you're to open a genuine constitution making process, they will be answered as a underlining factors of political instability in the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Edmund. Mackenzie, I think he answered your question. Let me go next. Let me welcome Attilio. Attilio, go ahead with your question. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ustaz Merida, thank you, Brother McCartney and Edmund Yakani from the Facebook there. Yeah, I was having a different perspective when it comes to this peace talks in Kenya. I think it was completing what was started. I think McCartney touched base on that in Khartoum, to revitalize the peace agreement that was incomplete, because we in social media we were outcrying that it's not inclusive. So now, why people are not supporting the peace process in Nairobi? That's the questions. I think you will agree with me. I know you are advocating for that, Brother Edmund. But why people are having these low opinions or low trust when it comes to the Tumaini peace agreements or peace talks? Because it's going to be inclusive, whereby those of Port Malong, those of Pakanamon can be part of the entire peace that is South Sudanese are looking for. Why is that? Can you clarify? Yeah, please.
Let me come in. The question of inclusivity will keep on continuing as long we have players who are politically discontented. The question of inclusivity will continue. For instance, you can deal with Malong, you can deal with Pagana Mum, Stephen Boy coming in country. That's one thing. As equal when we were in Khartoum by then, we have people who are outside. And they came in and people say, oh, that's a very good one in revitalizing the agreement, because when the agreement was signed, the agreement was not inclusive. Inclusivity was used for revitalization. And now revitalization failed, where in Tumaini, inclusivity has been used. So let me give this sequence. You can deal with now with Malong and with Pagana Mum in the name of inclusivity under the Tumaini they came in. The next you go, you deal with Thomas Cirillo, you deal with Emmanuel Ajawin, Alex Yatta, inclusivity, they're in. Soon you're going to deal with the comedian. Feel free. He's having a revolution now. He's making statements. And he's not neither part of Thomas Cirillo. So also once you deal with him, you're going to deal with another group. Those of Simon Garwich, and feel free, the comedian, in the name of inclusivity. As you close the file with them, another ones will merge. So that's the way how inclusivity, the interpretation is. The support people have for Tumaini right now is that the political leadership have been so much entrusted to two people, to His Excellency President and His Excellency First Vice President. And the two have deficit in trust and confidence that will not convince citizens that they will work together and deliver this country. They were saying, get other players. And that's why when you hear people are saying, please, Tumaini is good because at least Pagana Mum will come, Malong will come, Stephen Boy will come. You will shape the political players, scale bigger. Bring in Thomas Cirillo, you will scale it bigger. Bring in Emmanuel Ajawin, you will scale it bigger. That's what people are saying. You better have other players apart from the two. And that's why there's a support that having Malong, having Pagana Mum, having Weah Deng Ajak, having people like Kostima Nive, Stephen Boy, and plus other diaspora coming into the government will somehow challenge the deficit in trust and confidence between the president and the first vice president. To be honest with you, if you want to make a decision that make this country heaven, It is just the two principles. If the two principles agree, the spoilers will not entertain. Because, my brother, we have a class of politicians around the president, around the first vice president, that survive on the misunderstanding of the president and first vice president. We can name them if we want them to be named. Within the IG, there are people who survive if president is annoyed with the first vice president. In IO, there are people who survive in IO when first vice president is annoyed with president. But the moment president and first vice president have smiled to each other, some people get discontented. Say, like, what is happening? What is going on? So you see, when there's happiness between the president and first vice president, some people get annoyed. And there are many. Few are those who support that actually His Excellency President and first vice president should take the responsibility of making the country transition to peace and stability. But many survive under their misunderstanding. So that is a challenge. And that's what people are saying, bring in other players that will challenge this majority who tend to survive through the consequences of misunderstanding between the president and first vice president. I have to be honest with you. Today, if president and first vice president sit together and say enough is enough, we are leaders. We assume we are ruling these people. We are governing them. This is our decision. What will happen? Look at the decision of the president on the 32 states, returning 10 states. How many lives have we lost? We lost nobody. But look at the level of frustration, the level of ethnic tensions, the level of ethnic frictions, the level of hate speech. When people are campaigning 32 states to be returned to 10 states, or 32 states remain, or 10 states come, it was very tense. But when the leaders sit down and make a decision, we have had you, this is a decision. Have we lost lives? No. So we need to see President and His Excellency First Vice President, both of them, His Excellency President, His Excellency First Vice President, to make a decision that nail down successful political transition. If this country fail, from my perspective, the primary people have to be blamed are the members of the presidency. We're headed by President, First Vice President, and other Vice President. These are the people we should blame them. We shouldn't blame anybody. They take the responsibility of messing up the country. They take the responsibility of corrupting the country. And that's why in several platforms, and for me, I told them point blank, in public events, that they are there on the front of the table. During the governance forum, I tell them, if you go for election, you are going to campaign only here in Freedom Hall. Because these 5 people or 6 people at the level of the presidency are in charge of making a decision. And the parties that were created behind them, there are a lot of survivors who want to survive on their less attention of taking political responsibility as the leaders for making it. So why should we embrace majority that survive, majority political elites in the incumbent government that survive on the suffering of the people? So, brother, that's the reality. Is that the presidency is the first instrument we are going to blame for political instability in the country. We don't blame anybody. South Sudanese in general, they're okay. But they're messed up by people who sit at the presidency, who takes time to make a decision. So that's my answer.
Follow-up question, Ustaz Nudit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Follow-up questions. Yes, thank you so much, Brother Edmund. But let me describe the presidency and the relationship between Salva Kiir and Riek Machar as a principle. You just mentioned 2 principles, Salva Kiir and Riek Machar. They are the one who have the hierarchy when it comes to the peace agreements that was signed in Ethiopia. You see, the relation between these gentlemen is very frosty, and you yet pressing that we need to blame them, and they don't trust themselves. Salva Kiir doesn't want to work with Riek Machar. Riek Machar doesn't want to work with Salva Kiir. You see, this is the limbo or dilemma that South Sudanese are cut off. See, we don't know what to do because 2 principles don't get along, don't trust themselves. The relation among themselves is quite frosty, and it was witnessed by the regions and international community.
Yes,
I think there is one doctor from Kenya described that the relationship between Salva Kiir and Riek Machar is quite frosty.
It's Patrick Lumumba.
Yes, thank you. You see, now what can we do as South Sudanese? Like you spoken very well. I like the way you put your emphasis. You see, but driving border in Juba.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where can they generate their hope?
The Tumaini, where would they generate the Tumaini? Huh?
Tumaini now, you went Tumaini wasn't inclusive enough. You mentioned the case of Emmanuel Jawin. Emmanuel Jawin is not a politician. Emmanuel Jawin was brought by the family member, by his uncle, Lama Kol.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, then I can build my case through Malong Awan because he's from where I came from and to be politicians. You see? Yeah.
You know, let me tell you. Let me tell you my
like,
proposal.
Yeah, it's like the relationship between Salva and Riyadh is like it's like a girl is forced marriage. It's a forced marriage mostly. Like
no, but you can manage. You can manage.
Yeah, but
let me tell you my opinion. Let me tell you my opinion.
Mm.
Let me tell you my opinion. This is my opinion, my analysis. The two principles in personalities, they're okay. In personalities that the two work together, they're okay. What is the antagonistic moment or what antagonizes their relationship? It is those individuals that want to impose on them disagreement as an opportunity of winning their attention from both sides. From both sides. And I will tell you the history right from the beginning of 2013, how people were using Dr. Riek as a flag and how they want to run away with it. And you know the history. You know the conference, the press conference that was held. Look at how the press conference break into array. So like, you know, I remember when we were kids, I don't know whether you come across this in my childhood in Juba, when you want to fight two of you, Abraham, one of your colleagues will take sand in his hand. Then he start crying, Simsim Baharigni, you know, you see that they get that game. Simsim Baharigni, so he bring in between you, so you knock down the sword, and then you can fight. Unfortunately, the players of political players who are making this Simsim Baharigni between His Excellency President and the First Vice President are too many. Even some of them are family relatives that are one carrying the sand like this, to keep on fighting. Now, where will the average South Sudanese play a role? And that's why in Tumaini, one of the things that personally we stand behind it and we know that to go is a leadership council where you need to create a house of national consensus beyond political elites. You need to bring in other elders. For instance, do we need to bring Alpha Konari and another head of state to come talk to the presidents? Look here. If you bring somebody like Gereng Mobile, you mobilize them, Gereng Mobile, Abila Ler, Lagu, if they have the energy, put them between Salva and Riek. Put between president and Salva, and they will tell them, you are a generation. Look at the way Gereng Mobile was challenging them. That when you came, we draw back with the hope that we're handing over to the what? The responsibility. That's what Gereng Mobile say. It doesn't mean that we're idiots. No, we recognize you, we acknowledge you. That's why we draw back. You find us, we draw back and we give the responsibility. But now when come eating, you want to make a queue behind you that you first eat, and then you don't think about the person. You remember his interpretation. And that's why you call for dialogue. You say, please call for meeting, let's sit. We have elders, if we're able to bring them, they can nurture a relationship between the two. But unfortunately, we have class of politicians around them that does not allow the role of these elders to play a big role in nurturing a trust between the two. You see, people who like them to fight are too many around them, more than people who like them to work together. Now, also the people who like them to fight around them, who are too many, at the same time aspirants for their seats. You see, like, as you said, like as a forced marriage, if you're conning, then somebody say, bring the letter, let me take to your girlfriend, and the letter that is supposed to take your own wording, he convert it to be in his name. So this is the deal. We have too many political survivors, and that's why for me, the political parties, being it SPLM, being it SPLM-IO, they are not in charge of the political thinking and decision of the leaders. It's different people, by the way. This platform are just used for gaining political identity. But if come to reality, they are very far from influencing decision of peace and stability in the country. You see this? And this is why the average is there. So for me, the way forward right now is that we as a common citizen, we need to also take civic responsibility of approaching them and telling them that we have seen this. My brother, I was last week challenged by one of them. One of them, I was in a public event. I say, most of you here in the front seats, besides the economical crisis where civil servants have 10 months no salary, your children are jumping to plane business class. Your children are jumping to business class in the flights, while the people are suffering without salaries. Where do they get the money for buying the business class? If it wasn't, the mother's supposed to pay with salaries.
Right.
So then he say, look here, we know you like to name and shame us. And all that. I say, no, I'm not naming and shaming. I'm telling the truth. We have elders in the hospital dying. We have people who are in the floods dying. And your children jumping business class. This is the reality. Spoilers are more than those who want to see the country hold together. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Edmund, Ustaz Meridia. Thank you, Ustaz Edmund, for that clarifications and the way forward. But to me, from my own perspective, I think it's quite challenging for South Sudanese to come, because South Sudanese are divided along the divide. It is something that we need to work on. You see, even the political community in South Sudan is quite divided. That's why there is people from Dinka are supporting Salva Kiir, and people from Nuer supporting Riek Machar, these two principles, and the list will go. People from Latuka are supporting Lubang, for instance, and people from Bari are supporting Waniga. You see, this fragility need to be addressed by the intellectuals, and we're ignoring that. And when we talk about that, people just undermining this diversity, or when it comes to politics, we're quite diverse when it comes to politics, and it's very hard. That's why we have this fragile South Sudan political community, whereby Salva Kiir and Riek Machar cannot get along. You see.
And besides this, my brother, just not cutting short. Besides this, and of course the people are listening. Besides this, not that all Dinka are benefiting from Salva. Simply, it is a class of people who just want to use Dinka as a flag. Not all Nuer benefit from Riek. It's a class of Nuer who just want to use the Nuer as a flag to gain from Riek. It's not, this particular class of individuals, we need to face them. They want to use tribes to antagonize us and to create for them opportunity of looting the country. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we have, let me listening into the, I want to play, so I will not, it's just a voice from the General The sound is good? Ilman?
Yes.
And then the contact I got the wide. Lakini is going. أنا قلت له هنا قلت له شو رأيك بعدين because أنا بفكر I got the كلام مين دايرين يقول يا جماعة الفكر الدراسي لنا ده يموت بتبيوشون هو بيراسون it's not easy. It will take time. And not a short time, it will take a long. When you're young, Machar, you are a brother, you are a leader. And on the top, you are an elder. Yeah. So I just did the whole. And in the KPS, when I better them, where the Britannia better them, when you know again our plan, again our plan Shaggy, La King, لما أنينا وصلنا مدينة أجاب بلا different. And I used to say this when we were in the bush. Because I get and I saw on my eyes what happened those days. Definition the so-called veteran. And they are Arabo, the Munu Barabo. What's that? Alaga, Maja. The definition of the veteran nation. I want to know the definition of veteran. And there are different Muslims. I mean, the Mangana to Gavada. Bureau Mafia Lela. Wakajada Gadin Bijay with Bijay. Wakadin the Waraida. Ma Asil Yom Machina Wakana of the Bay. National Jaka in a Padman, Jim Medina, we would give the independent, then we begin a veteran. And I want to tell you why a veteran. The man can come to my region. Yellow Bushun, that a bull, Yamara, it's my young guru, Taro, I can do, Bakulu the Bushun wine, but then make it so. Good enough to get down, who got the other Bishilo, who comes to food and other chin other, what do you want to do? Come to a this is the doctor, this is the doctor we have, Comrade Mashar. Comrade Waniga, what? Comrade Coleman Young Fee, Comrade Awana Cold Fee, Comrade Coleman Young, Comrade Young Mashar. I appreciate your operation. Young Mashar Nabil Mawena Kut. Nadal Gawitide. Women mind do reinforcement in terms of ammunition, in terms of armament, but the Senini to Amutu Dabda is unforgettable by SPLA and SPLA. Maburu Kaleku. No matter to Fibardazal, Western Upper Nile, Kanajadel Patal Khalis. Comrade Young Mashar. And then Bullet Sinar. Remember, when we were in here, what happened? You and Maligagan and myself. How do we brought that down and we made it to be a peaceful resolution? I want you to go back and revise that one. And I congratulate you for that. I congratulate you again. When we took the independence, it was the work of the mom. You stand firm as a revolutionary. But after that, things got messed after independence. For me, it's historical and I will not forget it, and the rest of the people will not forget it. Let me go to Munster with Comrade James Wani. Comrade James Wani, you know, Ata Comrade Senar, Ita Muibarfu, Mogoni, Ita Barfu, Comrade Colmanyang, the Arfu, Lamanina Gana Kurubek, and then like the Sumna. The Sumna like me. Baganaz, I am she and Chokol Medenia. Baganaz, I am she for Wokuma. Uminina. And Mafi did the Tokyo now, Mafi, looking to guide you. And then at the Pong the Gajat. I will in the park and in Amuna. Furumbeka Chanmin, Jumidina, and in a Karana, and sitters and a wife, my Kunpimaya. وجد يكون متعين فقط بس 6 سنوات ما يقولوا يشيلوا للشهداء. هل مين عملنا الكلام ده؟ هو الدولة عملنا الكلام ده 6 سنة ما ادينا للشهداء بتاعنا. ولوكالا دينان شواداو دانا أنا متأكد كل زول كان عنده تقول وتواصل. It was the policy of the SPLM. Number 2, we agree. الناس بكون في الجيش مش كلمة مدنية هيمشوا قدام. لكن في المكاتب we are going to invite the whole Southerners. We incorporate them into the government.
Okay, I will stop here. So the reason why I'm playing this video is because that's one of the main things that I caught up. He say the story about the man who have his family, and then he told his wife that the food will be eaten at one mouse. One mouse we cannot share, because he told his family, his wife, his kids to go behind him, and then he can eat. And then he has the lady, his wife, that did food reach you? And the lady will say yes. So why he said this is because he said that SPLA, the things are in by one direction. So there's no, all these veterans, SPLA veterans, they are not getting anything. But specifically, there are certain SPLM leaders that the one getting benefit from it. So what do you take now from that, Edmund?
You know, this is my interpretation. My interpretation that after independence, the objective of why we have independent country is hijacked by spoilers of the independence. That's my interpretation. Because if you see all his statements, they are concrete decisions that he's communicating that people have agreed upon. But unfortunately, after the die of Garan, and when His Excellency President comes to power, some people who actually have no interest of that independence came and fixed themselves. And they changed the whole objective of the mission of why we have independent Republic of South Sudan to their personal property, for their personal gain. You see? So what happened is that you have let even I would say, this has connection with what he described as the ruling party is cocktail. Cocktail. And no cocktail, sometimes colors remain distinct. Huh? You can know that this is a mix of something that is not a natural. So the question comes is that the leadership of the country, like the request he made, go back and revise. He's using certain events, but those events is related to the current context we're in. And that's why, if really, His Excellency President and His Excellency First Vice President want to save the country from this outcry of the citizen, the inter-party dialogue is very important to be conducted in a genuine manner, in a concrete manner. Because right now, citizens are frustrated. Right now, we have leaders that were being held hostage by people who does not believe on the development and the growth of South Sudan, being it human or development by itself. So the human growth and the development of the society is being taken over by people who does not believe on it. They believe on their personal growth and their personal development. So you need to really switch. Otherwise, our leader may end up like Robert Mugabe. You see? Where people who want to use just your personality for their personal gain keep you on the seat to sit. Because they care less about the nation, they care less about the majority. And that message is a very triggering message, by the way. Shouldn't be taken simple. It needs to be taken serious. It needs to be worked on. It needs to be considered. And one of the biggest things he concluded as a way forward is, let's hold a meeting. Let people meet. Let them respond to his call. Let them meet. That meeting doesn't mean that let us go for war. Let us go and sit down in a genuine, constructive, productive manner, argue out, than having this confrontational approach. So for me, that's the call that he made. And that automatically alternates to the reality. And that's why the failure, yes, people have a different interpretation of Tumaini, but also the failure of Tumaini, it will worsen the chances of recurrence of violence very high. But if Tumaini to succeed, Tumaini should succeed in a manner that retain the same political attitudes that we have seen in the last 4 years. No. If Tumaini does not bring a change of attitudes, then Tumaini is carrying nothing. It holds nothing. And you can see very clear. Now, as people are pushing change of attitudes, people are pushing, let me give an example in Tumaini. The National Leadership Council is to bring influence into top political decision beyond the two principles. It's been rejected. It's a new mechanism. It's undermining sovereignty of the country. Sovereignty goes with the responsibility. Sovereignty is not an empty thing. You can't claim sovereignty if you're unable to demonstrate responsibility, and if your responsibility is not making service delivered in adequate manner to the citizen, securing of peace, security, and stability. That's not sovereignty there. Sovereignty is a responsibility. National Leadership Council was rejected. When you come to this ad hoc committee of National Transitional Committee, which have had enough money in the name of the agreement, which is an ad hoc, when we formalize it to a National Implementation Oversight Committee, it was rejected. Do you know what the people who rejected Tumaini, the top list, if I rank from 1 to 10, these are the same people who are keeping His Excellency President and First Vice President to continue misunderstanding. And these are the same people that are saying you go behind is only one mouth eating. They're the one who created that formula that Gereng Mobile was saying. And these are the same people who will go out and say, we are a sovereign country, we're sovereignty, we cannot be undermined, we know we'll struggle, we battle. But if you look at the list, in the battlefield, even some of them, you don't associate them with it. So why should we be fooled at this particular moment where everybody's learned, where facts are not hidden? Some of them who are challenging me, I said, look, one day we shall take pictures of your children in the business class and display to the public that these are children of so-and-so jumping to business class. They're not in economic class. Their father business class, their mother business class, their children business class, their close in-laws business class. And people are going 10 months without salaries. And you have that audacity of coming out and saying, the country is lacking money. No, we're not lacking money. You are running away with the money. So for me, that is where the message has come, is that moment has come for the top leadership of the country to revisit the approach of governing the country. By the way, I was today discussing with somebody. There's this question coming around the budget. So I discussed with somebody about maybe the trigger I'd like to share with audience here, where all the South Sudanese. Egypt is planning to sabotage us after the president signed the Nile Water Basin Agreement, cooperation. Egypt is very annoyed. And they may likely create another further instability because they don't see us signing that particular treaty without consulting them. And they see us we're taking the pathway of Ethiopia. So I discussed with somebody, what about the non-oil revenue sources and all this and all that? The non-oil revenue sources brought a lot of money. But like what the president, when he was telling the minister, the latest minister, that I know you come from Revenue Authority, we have too much money coming from the non-oil revenue, but there are so many people who are saving them. Today I look at the data. Do you know that we have enough money from non-oil revenue sources that can even help paying arrears? But the few people are running out with it. If you see, everybody in the police want to become a traffic police officer. Even some of them voluntarily have gone to the level of buying traffic police officers' uniform without being enrolled as a traffic police officer. And buy a whistle. Just into black and white as a traffic, you stop a car, you bargain, logbook without going, you walk out with 10,000. That's enough feeding allowance for you for the day. If we reach that level of where even civil servants now are entertaining culture of looting their own citizens. So where are we? That's why the leadership of the country need to take one step. We are not blaming them. We are reflecting and we are projecting to their attention the reality on the streets of the country that our people are facing. They need to retreat back and have a step. Even if you sign an agreement in Rome, as long the political attitudes remain the same, it does nothing. Then the second thing is that we have developed a political class. We have developed a political class that have built a political rigidity as an energy for political recognition, by the way. A political class that developed political rigidity as an aspect of an identity to be identified, that who I am. And that's what sometime back I've been saying, the political rigidity among our political elites is not healthy for human growth and the societal growth of South Sudan. واحد بيكنجس في حاجه لو بعدين سلموا له ذاته بيفصل نمره واحد. Why don't you think about the big picture? And some people believe politically, who are political leaders, that they own South Sudan and South Sudanese are their properties. Who told you that we are your properties? We may reject you at any moment. Have you only now license in you are the only potential politician to tell us, to teach us politics or direct us politics. So for me, those are the realities that the political class need to understand, because we have political class who believe on political rigidity, who does not care about the overall picture, and they feel manipulating best English words, democracy, transparency, accountability, rule of law, human rights is the best way forward. No way. No way. Citizens have the power. The power is not with you. As a politician, you want to come to the government, is a social contract between you and the citizens. So even how much landed you are, how much wealthy you are, if you want to go to the government, is a social contract between the porter, Atala Softa, Gomai, Atala the porter there. You need to reach a social contract with all your degree and your PhDs to go to government. It's a social contract deal. You can't impose on us. So for me, that is a shift of mind that we need to take responsibility right now. The country is messed up, and is a collective responsibility of the political elites that messed up the country with different political identities. Unfortunately, one thing they share in common is that their families are benefiting more than the common citizens at equal basis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edmund. Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. This is a time for us as citizens to talk and call them out. What they are doing, the life of citizens has. People are suffering, dying from hunger, from disease, from flooding, and they are not doing nothing. They are looting the country money, and they are just playing a game, Tom and Jerry game. Riyadh and Salva are playing Tom and Jerry game. So, and that is enough. It's enough. People are dying. Let the citizens take their country back. So I will be ending here. This is our last show. Thank you. I think I will give you your last words, and then we close up the show, and we'll bring up more show. We will invite you more leaders, and also I call out the government official. We want them. Let them come in public. Come to social media. We are afraid. I know you are afraid in Juba. You don't want to come in public.
Abraham.
Yes.
Abraham.
Yes.
If you can allow me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Last word.
Yeah, go ahead.
Praise my brother Edmund.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much for speaking very loud in regard to the country that is being hopeless and being bleak because of the two principles. I like that. That's one. Secondly, politics is quite dirty. Even the clip of Grandmabil, if you listen to it very carefully and deeply, I think you will have issue with that. Grandmabil in his speech, and it's quite unfortunate that your Aswad funeral was politicized. You see, it is quite unfortunate, and I don't like that. Even though there is no forum whereby people can vent out their anger or the disappointments and outrage how the country is running, but you cannot do that in Bureau Aswad funeral. It's happened. It would quite politicized.
Yep, I do agree.
Yes, you see, whereby he called Yer Chuang to stand up, and Tormajang Agot. Tormajang used to be the deputy defense minister, and Yer Chuang used to be the Minister of Interior Affairs in South Sudan. In his time, this is where the gun, the so-called unknown gunmen were killing people in Juba, and he did nothing. And he was trying to advocate that we were colleagues, but we are left out from the big cake. You see, this is why I'm not buying his outrage at this moment, even though I like his braveness. Grandmabil is someone that I look up to when I want to define what is the meaning of the braveness. See? With that said, yeah, it was wrong in that regard. And secondly, I want to praise Brother Marid Abraham for being bold, by calling Salva Kiir and Riek Machar their friends. You see, we need to come together. This is, I think, will initiate the collectiveness of South Sudanese to own our country for your sake, Brother Edmund Ikani. South Sudanese need to reclaim or try to define their way forward, and we can do that collectively, far away from the tribalisms and the fusion that is happening. And you can see now if we Clubhouse and social media generally, people are so divided. You see, and we cannot believe or admire those of Salva and Riek Machar and Wanida and you name them. Everyone is fighting for their life. Everyone is fighting for their wealth. You see? And you mentioned very good point. Abelalier and Lagu and but Lagu been benefiting to the expense of South Sudanese. The same thing to Abelalier as well, because we regard him as one of the best. We don't know the other side, other version of them. See? Apart from that, I will leave it here because I don't want to prolong. I was already going to close the room. But thank you, Edmund. Edmund, yeah, we need to speak loud, and we need to acknowledge the fact.
Absolutely.
Without being biased.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Usada Tilo. Absolutely. Tilo, I'm one of the Jammer. I grow up in Aspele, during Aspele. I see everything, But when we see these leaders not doing enough, we, as one of the lost ones, we sacrifice our life and our resources to help people. Without us as the lost web, so when we come to the United States 20 years ago, there was no so-called Republic of South Sudan now today. Because the campaign that we did, when we come here, we speak in White House, we speak Congress, we speak to the churches, tell the American people that what's going on in South Sudan. So the South Sudan can have their country, their freedom. But when we achieve that, the life, we see the suffering still continue. We cannot be silent. It is a time for them. We call them out. Okay, it's a time to call them out. So I appreciate you. Thank you. Because I'm still supporter of SPLM, but I support of SPLM I will back away when this coming election, if the election is not taking place in December, SPLM. That's SPLM. So you guys are, I grew up in SPLM during Haraka time, but if you are postponing this election, some of us, like Medina, we will withdraw our support of SPLM. That's my message to you, SPLM. So thank you, Usad anyone for coming in again. This is the conversation we need, and let the leaders know that we are not happy with them. So go ahead and put in your last word, and then before I close the show, and I will play one more clip from General Garang Kabil. So go ahead.
Yeah. For me, I do agree with the last comment from our brother Tilio. Also, Garang Mabel is trying to use the same formula to calculate his way to it. So partly his message is that also have a personality of self-interest that he want to be recognized. That game of Hakolo Baraude, it's just meant that you're not feeding us all. So if you're feeding us all, could have been kept quiet. We would have never stopped here. But also the politicization of the funeral is something that I can say is not good, because people should have a different platform, not a funeral. A funeral is supposed to be a respect of soul of a person. It shouldn't be used as a space of war. My last message is that I'm appealing to all South Sudanese. First, violence, we should not use it as an option of resolving our political grievances. Violence gain no one. All of us were lost because all we were very public. My second message is that let us embrace dialogue. Let's talk to each other. Let's name and shame each other, as long as we don't claim life of any person among us. Dialogue is the best. We should not stress ourselves. We should embrace dialogue. My last message, and this is a call, Abraham, together with the diaspora. Let us open a new page. And I've shared with you, Abraham, the findings of our clubhouse. You have seen how destructive clubhouse is destroying our social fabric. We need to change our attitudes. And I wish that one day we shall have a show on our findings on clubhouse so that I share the facts and how we conduct the research and what evidence we've generated. Because for me, South Sudan is bigger than our opinion. All of us, with our thinking, our radical position, one day we're going to leave South Sudan for generations to come. Let our legacy be a legacy that we are able to create peace and stability that have supported a growth of our society and the growth and the development of our people. That for me is my last message. So I'm appealing. Let's open a new page. Let's open a new page. And those who want to join us opening a new page, I'm ready. Whether with Tumaini, without Tumaini, with Rome, without Rome, with our access, without our access, let's open a new page. You have seen the way how we shouted SSD when our national basketball team was playing. There's no tribe there. Nobody's shouting about my region, my tribe, my state, my what. Everybody stood up. And the flag is the only thing that you can see. There we are. When people are raising the flags, even including our friends. So I'm appealing, let's open a new page. We cannot continue with the spirit of confrontation. And I know for you in diaspora, the pain we have at home sometimes is very far from you. Let me repeat. For you in diaspora, the pain we have at home sometimes is very far from you. Yes, you may feel it by sending money for funerals. You may feel it by sending money for the economical crisis. But the pain we have is more than the money you sent. So I'm appealing to you as a diaspora, stand up. So many liberated countries in Africa are known by the diaspora becoming the alternative players of setting up the country. Go to Sierra Leone, go to Liberia, go to so many countries. You will learn that diaspora play a big role in fixing the country to the right country that accommodate everybody. So as South Sudanese diaspora, take that responsibility and play that responsibility responsibly for the best interest of our country. So tomorrow can say our diaspora have done. But when the diaspora divide the people, the diaspora preach misinformation, the diaspora preach disinformation, the diaspora champion hate speech, the diaspora champion hostile propaganda, and with the belief that where we are, we feel we're not so much exposed than you in all aspects. It's a sad. So my appeal to you is that diaspora, all together with few of us who are in, let's open a new page for the South Sudan we want. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Edmund. Yes, absolutely. We will do that show about the finding of clubhouse things next week, next Saturday, because even yesterday, there was one of the guys opened the room and claiming that former Mayor Kalito was here. Imagine. He was doing that propaganda, and that's a bit dangerous. So these people, yes, we will be definitely going to do that show next week. So thank you very much. Yes. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful night. I will see you again. We will have another show coming in this Sunday with Lual Dao. So stay with me and you will get more. Thank you. Thank you.
Kamala Harris was supposed to secure the border, but over 10 million illegals entered.
وطني وتقول لا لزول مادة يقدم شاب أبقى راجل ونكون وطني وتقول لا للبساط ابقى راجل وتكون وطني وتقول لا لزول مادة يقدم شاب قول لا لو يهود بيشيل فطور بيشيل غدا ويشيل عشان ابقى راجل وتقول لا وتفضل جان قول لا لو يهود بيشيل فطور ويشيل غدا ويشيل عشان ابقى راجل وتقول لا وتفضل جان أسبيع مجن زمان جنبك مشغول كمو ميدكا ميدكا ويد جور جالكا مقوايا بيجيلويل أسبيع مجن زمان جنبك مشغول كمو ميدكا ميدكا ويد جور جالكا مقوايا بيجيلويل أسبيع مجن زمان جنبك مشغول كمو ميدكا Elka where you are, Baba Africa, Paladi Walla Jilong Lelgati, Baba Africa, Paladi Walla Jilong Lelgati, Jesus Bella Maoyla, Kuna Mumi, the Kayakok, Gabadi, Jesus Bella Mawe the car, Kuna Mumi, the Kayakok, Gabadi, and Kinati Bella Yak, I didn't win. But where the get young, the tongue, me that tell them my own way. And again, and tell them, yeah, I'm below it win. But where the get young, the tongue, me that tell them my own way. And then when you get me my win, me that tell them my own way. If I want to get more than win, me that tell them my own way. If you want to get well by a win. Misas Bellam, my own way, my giddy, yet and no long matter Misas Bellam, giddy, yet and no long matter Misas Bellam. It can one you warning, it has a cherry. You can't get it by a collion bone. It can one get Columba, whom have a cherry. You can't get it by a collion bone. It can when you warning, it has a cherry. You can't get it by a collion bone. It can not go when you're whom have a cherry. You can't get it by a collion bone. A bandar can be banyak, while we was spelling, I see moon. A bandar can be banyak, while we was spelling, I see moon. My kiddy today, and no long matter Mrs. Bellum. Kitty day today, and no long matter Mrs. Bellum. My kiddy today, and no long matter Mrs. Bellum. Kitty day today, and no long matter Mrs. Bellum.
Yeah, what's
Lalu dia beda. Kita atom si narus. Lekin tapi si lial dia narus. Lalu dia beda. Lekin kan dia nasraya kalis.
I just want to bring that your attention.
Dia jabu.
Very good show.
Kalau menjual gan atom mana? Atom mana?
Really admire the way you
Open le atom ni.
conducted yourself.
Opa okay.
Because
Alih ke talau. Guru jinab de talau.
we are quite
Di le kosmos. Guru jadi si alu bio atau le kosmos.
Sudan, and you
Kalau
know that
menjual macam beda.
you see there is folks
Balik itu.
in your room.
Atom si berasa.
Maybe
Ulu mun nak ada.
they had the
Itu ada jitam sebalik. Itu pun reg warai. Ya Allah. Mau uzir asa? Mau uzir?
to
Dia
please
nak
you.
buka tentang mau uzir?
Those that look, those of the year,
Sini cuma yang we never left anything.
the rest of the
Okay, puluhan.
workers, you know.
Macam apa bukan ni jangan kalau dia tengah tidur tangnya.
And
Aja tidur tangnya mu.
in this room,
Itu boleh pakai, boleh pakai biar lebih biar dari tim tu kan.
otherwise,
Ayo macam apa? Ayo biar ke apa?
I live there and
e ka bora ko wirden da biya kongo da biya bor ay yo yor jam ten ki so tan
And thanks as well to Manjikani for that eloquent, presentation when it comes to
I cannot do that. Or don't use another. We don't go people. What you don't change? Why I really did I take on the queen? We don't build your location.
Thank you. Thank you. Let us continue to engage in the what we need. Thank you so much. And also, let me thank you guys. Have a wonderful day again. So I'm not. Actually, let me bring people up in let me. Okay. And then we can
if that become
with the room.
What you fear? By go. Make walk. Make Georgian and people farm. With the pure. And I put your hand pure. Book the kick and shake. Can you build farm to level? Will be level. Naturally, walk. What we pass. What we pass. Are we believe it? I'm good. I should go to it.
I'm going to speak shortly. Apart from that, we need to watch you.
I give you a name. I give you I just say I in South Sudan media. I mean, the network or what? And thank you so much for giving us. Okay, yeah, I will leave it. Okay, I will leave it to Medit. We trash the room for us. That's okay.
You can back, be on your irga joel, or irga cheat on more. I chill away. I chill back at your ding now. You meet the lake on your in a room get the on Tiara Okin you. achiliu achiliu midale on you ne rungadie on tiara okin you achiliu achiliu midale toyina piai wala rumbe kain ping William toyina will wala pibor kain ping William toyin Juba Malatori Ambio, Kain Ping William, Toin Benti, Walla Quadu, Kaya Wow, Kain Ping William, Toin Malkal, Walla Pinaram, Kain Ping William, Pandil Legisted in Anyam Baiban, Pinyara, where in Anyam Wawadia, Pindil Legisted in Anyam Baiban, Pinyara. Toyin Juba Malatori Ambio Kain Ping William Toyin Benti Walla Quadu Kaya Wow Kain Ping William Toyin Malkal Walla Pinaram Kain Ping William Media